Hello Dark Souls 2 fans, and welcome back to another episode of Methodical Gamer. This is an episode that's been long overdue for quite some time now, but I've been very busy in my personal life, so I've been working on this video little by little, and I promised myself a long time ago I wasn't going to rush my content just to make videos. Alright, so enough about me, let's talk about this build. This is my first Scholar of the First Sin build for Dark Souls 2. I've been playing with it now for about a month and a half, and I've got to say this is a build that I'm extremely proud of. My Drakekeeper sword build was the last build that I had made for the last gen console before moving on to PS4. You guys may have already seen this build if you saw my duel against Mr. I Won't Forget. And what this build is essentially is a balance between three weapons that cover very different movesets, that have very different functions, and they keep the opponent on edge constantly. I'm able to attack the opponent in pretty much any situation using this build. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is break the build down into three parts, one for each of the weapons I'm using. So first I'm going to explain a little bit about each weapon, and then I'm going to explain how I use the weapon in the build as a whole. First up is the Drakekeeper sword. This is probably the most used weapon of the build. I wouldn't say overused, but I would say well used, because if you watch my other Drakekeeper sword video, you would see there's two ways to attack with this sword, and I talk about my opinion of the broadsword versus the longsword, and what's my favorite straight sword class type weapon. But in short, the Drakekeeper sword is a CC quality type weapon with a slash type moveset to hit opponents on both high frames and low frames. Up next is the Battle Axe. This is my left hand weapon. At plus 10, this weapon scales with a B in strength and a D in dexterity. This weapon is also a slash type moveset weapon. So you ask me, I'm already using a slash type weapon in my right hand, why do I need one in my left hand? Well, the Battle Axe to me serves two functions in the build. Both of these functions fall in the same category. It's not so much the moveset or the damage of the weapon, it's the fact that this weapon has a different timing than the other weapon does. If I'm wanting to close the gap, I'll use it with a sprint L1, I'll close more space. I use that in mid-range fighting. If I want to throw my opponent off with the speed of my attack, then I'll throw out an L1 instead of an R1. And the last weapon for the build is the Rampart Golem Lance. This weapon was actually recommended to me by a friend, so quick shout out to Hipster Souls. I was asking him if he recognized a weapon that I haven't used yet that he thought would be good for a thrust type attack, so he threw out the idea of the Rampart Golem Lance. Now regrettably this is the most underused weapon of my build, and it simply has to do with the fact that the function of this weapon in the build is just to cover a lot of ground through the sprint L1 or the R2 attack. But one of the biggest pros of this weapon is its DPS. In a counter attack, I've seen this weapon do upwards over 1,000 damage in a combo before. Last thing to mention about this build, and it has to do with the Rampart Golem Lance and my stats in a roundabout way. The Rampart Golem Lance scales with an A in strength and a C in dexterity, and is by far the most stat needy weapon of this build. It requires 35 strength and 20 dexterity to use. So if at the very beginning of the video you were wondering why I'm using the stats of 40-20 with a quality weapon like the Drakekeeper sword, that's why. I also use it to match the stats of the Rampart Golem Lance. So guys, I have something new that's special at the end of my video, so I'm going to go ahead and ask you to hit that like and subscribe button if you learned something from this video, or if you just want to support my channel, and I would greatly appreciate that. Guys, this is the last fight of the video. After this, I'm going to have a brand new outro. This outro was designed by the Dangman. I've done collaboration videos with Dangman in the past, but he spent a lot of time, effort, and energy making this outro for me, and I really do appreciate it, so thank you for that. I'm giving him a quick shout out. I'm going to put his link in the description below, so guys, go check him out if you haven't seen his content before. He is a great Dark Souls 2 YouTuber. So until next time, remember to play smart and keep on winning.